guys? Welcome to the live stream, and let's get into it. All right, what is going on, guys? To the live stream, we got a couple of topics that we do want to talk about. First, we want to talk about Carl Lentz. What's going on with him and the whole thing that happened with him and Hillsong. He was fired from Hillsong, the church. I think he was in the NYC branch. And we're going to talk about that. And, of course, we're also going to talk about this whole election debacle that's been going on. I know that some of you guys have seen one of my posts or one of my videos about basically just touching a little bit on the subject. I didn't want to get into too much detail because that video probably would have been so long. And I just decided that I said, I did want to go live, and I'm sorry that it's been taking so long for me to actually do this. But I'm going to go ahead and address a couple of you guys in the chat. Semper Reformata, Soldier of Christ. How you doing? He says, grace and peace. Also, Dunamis Bacchus. I don't know if I said that right. I don't think I did. But grace and peace to you guys. Let me go ahead and there we go. Mute that. Get that on out of the way. And put this over here. So yes. We got a couple of the topics that we gotta get into. Hey, the Weaver, Mrs. Weaver. How you guys doing? How are you guys doing tonight? So I see that people are starting to fall into the chat or starting to fall into the live stream. We're up to like 19 people so far. And if you guys can, do me a favor, hit that like button as you come in. And I think somehow that helps. That helps with the algorithms or something. I don't know how that works out. Mark, how you doing? How you doing, Mark? We also have Donald Brown, Mr. Donald Brown. How are you doing tonight? Yes. So I'm just taking this time to address everybody. Poetry and Prophecies. How are you doing, ma'am? So yeah, tonight we are going to, get into some real deep discussions, especially when it comes to the election. And I just want to go ahead and put this out here before I get started. If you're a person that is sensitive to the topic of the election, politics, things of that nature, we're probably going to be discussing those things, of course, always from a biblical perspective. But if this is something that you don't like or you don't get into, I would ask that you just go ahead and just leave the live stream now, because there are some things going on, like I even mentioned in my video that I did last week, that's going on with the election that is a little fishy. I don't want to say that anything has been rigged. I don't want to, I'm not saying any of that. I'm not getting into conspiracy theories. But I am saying that there are some things that are concerning in us as Christians. We're going to have to really start just diving deep into the scriptures. And we need to start preparing ourselves for some of the things that may be happening or some of the things that may be going on. So first, I want to go ahead and start out. I want to talk about Carl Lentz. Now, if you guys don't know who Carl Lentz is, he was a pastor, okay, a really popular pastor of Hillsong Church. And Mr. Carl Lentz, let me go ahead and see if I can pull this, guys. Go ahead and pull this up. Do a little screen share. So, Carl Lentz, he was the guy who was a pastor here, Hillsong Church, very popular guy. And Carl Lentz was good friends with Justin Bieber. Him and Justin Bieber were really, really good friends, probably still are. And he's been fired. He's been fired from his church. And I think that's I really think that's a pretty interesting use or terminology. Him being fired. Like how do you get fired from a church? It's almost as if like he is the CEO or he's like an employee or something like that. I don't understand why they use the word fired. Because in a church, this has nothing to do with some type of financial organization. And I know that some people, they do take these churches and they try to turn them into organizations to where they can make money and build it like it's a business. But like I said, I just find that really, really interesting that they use that terminology. So let's go ahead and read this article. This is from Yahoo News, Yahoo Life News, and I don't know, I don't know how credible this source is, but this is a pretty short video. I mean, a pretty short article, and it says Hillsong Church pastor Carl Lentz was fired. Here's everything we know about the scandal. Now, apparently, and actually, I read this earlier, and it didn't really seem like they didn't really go into too much of why he was fired. So, hold on one second. Give me about 2 minutes, and go ahead and get me some. Go ahead and get my bottle of water. All right, my throat was starting to get a little dry, so I had to get me some water, make sure I don't start coughing uncontrollably in a minute. Okay, so let's go ahead and read this article about Mr. Carl Lentz, okay? It says, Hillsong Church pastor Carl Lentz, who rose to public prominence thanks to A-list celebrity churchgoers like Justin Bieber, has been terminated from his position. Pastor Carl, as he is often referred to, was the leader of Hillsong NYC, the East Coast branch of the popular megachurch. Founder Brian Houston announced the news on Wednesday, November 5th. And this is what he says, quote, "Today, Hillsong Church, East Coast, advised our congregation that we have terminated the employment of Pastor Carl Lentz." He said in the statement, per People. So I guess that's like People magazine. Just want to stop right there for a moment. Now they said that he was fired. Terminated. It says that we have terminated the employment of Pastor Carl Lentz. Like employment, like what do you mean by employment? Like you guys hired this guy to be a pastor? I don't know. May I could be wrong, but as a person who has read scripture and who understands scripture, I don't see anywhere in the Bible, especially in the first century church, where anyone who is considered a pastor or an overseer is a person who is employed by a church. Like this is bigger. Like the church is bigger than trying to make a quick buck or trying to make a dollar, But Hillsong is this type of church that they focus more on their music ministry. And a lot of people like Hillsong's music. They just think that a lot of nice music come from Hillsong. Me personally, I really don't think that I can pull one of their songs, out of my memory banks right now to say I've heard it or what. But I mean, from what I've heard, that their songs are they're pretty popular. A lot of people like that church because of their songs and stuff. But I don't know when they say that when when they use this terminology, like the employment of Pastor Carl Lentz, I'm like, what do you mean by that? Was he on a contract or something like that? But it's just crazy how how much the foolishness has got into churches nowadays. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's continue to read. This action was not taken lightly, as was done in the best interests of everyone, including Pastor Carl. The reason? Ongoing discussions in relation to the leadership issues and breaches of trust, plus a recent revelation of moral failures. Houston did not go into detail about what those moral failures are exactly. Now, according to, I think I was listening to a video that somebody had posted. Actually, it was another Christian guy. He was actually doing, uh, he was actually addressing this in one of his videos. And apparently, Carl Lentz he's been caught in an adulterous relationship. Now, I don't know if it's with another man or a woman or what, but apparently, I think that he ended up, let me see. Okay. I'm trying to see if I can see that tweet, but anyway, is this it? Okay, hold on one second. Trying to see if there, because he ended up putting out a tweet, and I think he was kind of alluding to the fact that he was in an adulterous relationship, cheating on his wife and stuff. So I believe that that's what the moral failures thing is about. But like they say, Houston didn't go into detail about what those moral failures were. So, yeah, Rashida says that he said he cheated on his wife, and that's what I think that's what I think it is too. But since they haven't released it publicly, I'm not going to go out and just say, hey, this is what he did. But from what Carl Lentz said, this is basically what he was saying, is that he alluded to the fact, or he alluded to that he actually cheated on his wife. And like I said, I mean, I don't know if it's a man or a woman. In this day and age, you got to be prepared for anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue to read this article. It says, while I have no doubt that this is the right course of action, I must mention Bobby's and my personal sadness as we have known Laura, Lentz's wife, her entire life, and Carl for well over 20 years. Houston continued, we thank Pastors Carl and Laura for the way that they have served faithfully and sacrificially since the start of Hillsong NYC, and for contributing so significantly to the countless lives that have been transformed for Jesus Christ through his ministry. Now, interesting that they say Pastors Carl and Laura when the Bible basically says that only men can be pastors. So already, I mean, we can already start to see some of the error in what this church is promoting, or what they believe. If they believe that Laura, his wife, can be a pastor. But we're going to talk about that later. Let's continue. They have a heart for people, and we are confident that after a time of rest and restoration, God will use Carl in another way outside of Hillsong Church in terminating his tenure. We in no way want to diminish the good work he did here. And again, this is his picture. This is him on Instagram. Okay, so they talk about Hillsong. They talk about some of the celebrities who have attended. I'm not going to really read all of this, but if you want to read the full article in this context, this is Yahoo Life. Says Justin and Haley Bieber. Chris Pratt, that's the guy from, what is it, the Marvel movies? And let me see if we can go ahead. That's not him. Here it is. That's the guy who plays what's his name? The Star-Lord guy. On what's the name of that movie, man? I can't. I'm drawing a blank right now. Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy. That was it. Selena Gomez, Kyle and Kendall Jenner, Kourtney Kardashian. What? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you like this. If I had a church, if I ran a church, um, I'm pretty sure people like Kourtney Kardashian and Kendall Jenner and you know these people wouldn't want to attend. Um, I think I can't remember. I think it was Kyle. Well, which one of those girls was in that video with what's the name of that video? What Cardi B, WAP or WAP, whatever they want to call it, the stupidest song ever, and I just can't believe that is one of the most number one. That's one of the number one videos or one of the number one songs in this country right now is the WAP song. But I think one of these girls is in that video. I think it might be Kylie. I could be wrong. There's so many Kardashians out there, man. I don't know. It's like 10 of them out there. I don't know if it's Kylie or whoever, but let me see. Okay, so this is what Carl Lentz has said. He says, at our time at Hillsong NYC came to an end. This is a hard ending to what has been the most amazing, impacting, and special chapter of our lives. Leading this church has been an honor in every sense of the word, and it is impossible, to articulate how much we have loved and will always love the amazing people in this church. When you accept the calling of being a pastor, you must live in such a way that it honors the mandate. That is, honors the church, and that it honors God. When that does not happen, a change needs to be made and has been made in this case to ensure that the standard is upheld. Laura and I and our amazing children have given all that we have to serve to build this church, and over the years, I did not do an adequate job of protecting my own spirit, refilling my own soul, and reaching out for the readily available help that is available. When you lead out of an empty place, you make choices that have real and painful consequences. Now, this is stuff that really sounds pretty good on paper, and I really want people to understand what he's saying, because there are, and it's not just pastors who go through things, right? Who have certain sins, certain struggles and battles that they're dealing with. A lot of us, we can all say that there may be certain struggles and things that we battle with. And just like he said, he was saying that he did not reach out to the help that was readily available. And sometimes, we can take that. We need to take that as an example of some of the things that we may need to do, as just believers, period, that when we are battling and struggling with things, it's best for us to be able to reach out to those, some of the elders in our church. And this is why I always tell people it's so important to be a part of a fellowship. There's a lot of people, I ain't going to go back to church, and I left the church 15 years ago and ain't stepped foot inside one since. That's very dangerous, because when you're tempted and you may be struggling or battling with sin, if you don't have anyone that you can go to and say, hey, pastor, or hey, brother, or hey, sister, when you're a part of a fellowship, to say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm dealing with. I want to be able to have somebody that I can call, somebody that I can be able to talk to, and somebody who's going to help me put my eyes back on the Lord. And that's why I think it's just so important that that you be a part of a fellowship. And I know that a lot of people, they look at situations like this and they say, oh, see, that's why I don't go to church. That's why I don't go to church. But if all we can do is wait for something to happen just so we can turn around and say, oh, well, that's why I don't go to church, then you're not living in the will of God. Like, we're supposed to bear each other's burdens, and you can't do that when you just sitting at home and you refuse to be a part of a fellowship. And this is the problem that I do have with people who call themselves Hebrew Israelites, because they'll go out and they'll abandon the church, and then they all they do is sit home and watch podcasts and listen to other people talk about, like, saying, we the people, this is our land, and they're not focused on the gospel anymore. So when you do have these people who slip out of the will of God and they start to look to other things, you can end up in a really bad situation. You can really end up going down a really deep rabbit hole if you don't have somebody to hold you accountable. And I believe that whoever runs Hillsong, I think that they did the right thing by implementing church discipline and basically getting him out of there and saying that, hey, we can't have this in the church. We can't, you're a guy who's out here and you're leading people. You're supposed to be leading people to God, but you're basically out here doing things that are immoral. So I do credit them for that, for implementing that type of church discipline. But one of the things that I will say is that it's kind of a catch-22, because if you've allowed people to come into your church who truly are not Christian, like a lot of these celebrities that was mentioned, these people aren't really Christians. You know what I'm saying? Let's just be honest about that. When you allow if these people are comfortable coming to your church and then leaving and then going back to their own regular lives, then you're not really doing anything. I mean, if these people are not being convicted of their sin, then what's the point of having a church? So what happens is that when you have these people, especially like Justin Bieber and the Kardashians, who whenever they get a chance, they're out promoting lewd and lascivious stuff. Justin Bieber's songs are not these innocent songs. They're not gospel songs. I mean, he's talking about sexual stuff and all types of secular things. And I mean, when you look at the Kardashians, all you got to do is just say Kardashians, and what's the first thing you think of? Sexual perversion. And when you're constantly surrounded by these type of people, I mean, you can't be surprised when a person who pastors a church that allows these people to come in and sit up under him with, I mean, they really have no intentions on changing their lifestyle. Of course, some of that can become an influence on him as the pastor. So that's why when I first saw this article, I was just like, I'm not surprised. I honestly, the way I thought when I first saw this, I was just like, it was just only a matter of time. Like, this didn't even shock me. And that's bad to even have that thought. But when you start to see a certain pattern, and when you start to see how a person is pastoring a church, because I remember he was on the Breakfast Club, and this was about maybe like 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. And Charlemagne the God was, I mean, just really, it almost seemed like that he was berating him, and he was basically saying that, well, the Bible is fake and it was given to slaves, and, all of this type of crazy stuff. And Carl didn't even have an answer. And I think that I actually did a video on that, but I can't remember. Or I mentioned it in a live stream or something. And I was just like, when you have to compromise the gospel just so you can be popular, or continue to be popular in the eyes of these people who don't care about God anyway, the only thing that you're doing is compromising. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Mark says no accountability when you are not connected to a family of believers gathering collectively is important, and this scripture based. Correct. Correct. Totally correct. You have to be in a fellowship, and I always stress how important it is. I mean, you don't have to be in some big mega church. You don't have to be in the most popular church, and you just don't go and just join a church just to be a part of a fellowship. That's that can also lead you down a rabbit hole as well. But you have to find a sound Bible believing fellowship, and it's tough. I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you guys. It's tough. I mean, it took my wife and I a couple of years to end up finding a Bible believing fellowship, and we used to talk about it all the time, and we prayed. There was a time that we sat home for over a year, but we continued to pray, and we continued to ask God to lead us to a sound Bible believing fellowship, and we ended up right now we're at a house church, and I've never been more edified this is the most I've been edified, basically, and to be around the people that we've been around. It's just been such a blessing, Mr. Donald Brown says, I so want to find a church fellowship. Recently, we've stopped attending our church. Then just a few months ago, we found out that our former pastor had to be terminated for the exact same thing. Now I have a lady as a senior pastor. So now my wife and I continue to read, study, pray while looking for a true Bible teaching church to fellowship in. And I mean, that can be, honestly, that's reality today. You know what I'm saying? That is reality today that a lot of our brothers and sisters are having a hard time with, is finding true Bible believing Christians or a church that teaches sound doctrine. And there's no perfect church out there. I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know that, spoiler alert, there's no perfect church out there. So you're not going to find a church that is perfect. You're not going to find a church that you may agree 100% with everything that they do, But you have to be able to read the Bible to understand and know what is the foundations of these churches. Because some people, they'll put some really nice things in their statements or their statements of faith in their websites, and you'll say, "Oh, that sounds like a nice Bible-believing church." And then you get in there, and then you'll see that they believe in something that's almost totally opposite of what the Bible even teaches. But let me go ahead and finish reading this real quick. Now, this is Carl Lentz, and he says, I quote, "I was unfaithful in my marriage, the most important relationship in my life, and held accountable for that." Okay, so he was unfaithful in his marriage, meaning that he did cheat on his wife. This failure is on me and me alone. I take full responsibility for my actions, and I'll begin a journey of rebuilding that trust with my wife, Laura, and my children, and taking real time to work on and heal my own life and seek out the help that I need. I am deeply sorry for breaking the trust of many people who have loved serving and understand that this news can be very hard and confusing for people to hear and process. I will have liked to say this with my voice to you in person because you are owed that, but that opportunity I will not have. So, to those people, I pray you can forgive me and that over time I can live a life where trust is earned again. To our pastors, Brian and Bobby, thank you for allowing us to lead, allowing us to thrive, and giving us room to have a voice that you have never stifled or tried to silence. Thank you for your grace and kindness, especially in this season, as you have done so much to protect and love us through this. We, the Lentz family, don't know what this next chapter will look like, but we will walk into it together, very hopeful and grateful for the grace of God. And that was Carl Lentz, and this is his Twitter page. That's him and his family, like his wife and his girls, and also his son. So, yeah. Well, he has a picture of Emmett Till. I don't know why he has that on his Instagram page. I guess he's probably promoting some what is it, the Black Lives Matter agenda. Yeah, but anyway, man, sad, very very sad, and and it's always it's never a good thing to see a pastor fall. I don't care what church they've been in. I don't care what type of church that they pastor. I don't care if they're just charismatic, because these are people who are supposed to be representatives of God. And whenever a person who is supposed to be a representative of God falls in such a way, especially like this, it's not just their lives and their families' lives that are changed, but you got these members. And with him being such such a part of a big church. I mean, this is a church that I guess they were like, of course they were known around the United States. They were pretty popular around the United States, but I think that they were also popular like in the UK, in Australia. I think they mentioned Australia in one of the articles that I was reading. But to have all of these people, and just like I say, sometimes you do have people who are actually seeking God. They really want to get close to God, and sometimes they end up in churches like this. There are times where I was attending a mega church. I attended a mega church for I think maybe about a year or two, and at the time, I was a babe in the faith, but me not knowing the Bible and me not reading scripture, I'm at the mercy of that pastor. So whatever he teaches me, I'm at the mercy of that teaching, and I can just sit back and say, oh, with my carnal mind, this sounds right. This sounds good. But if I'm not reading my Bible and I'm not understanding sound doctrine and sound teaching, then now I began to idolize that pastor or that preacher. And I'm just basically taking their word for it. And I'm listening to them tell me what God has said, instead of me actually cracking that Bible open for myself and seeing exactly what God is saying. So there's a lot of people. I mean, we just live in kind of this microwave society to where we just want things fast and we want it quick. And we want to feel like that just because we attend church for a couple of hours, that's just enough. God sees that. I've clocked in, I've clocked out. God sees that. Now I can just go on about my business or my daily life, and just, God knows my heart. He knows that I'm not just, I'm not as big or not as bad as some of these other people. I'm just out here, I may sin, I may fall, but I get up sometime, and that's just it. And you really have to get into that Bible. You really do. You really have to study it for yourself. But let's go ahead and read what Titus 1 has to say about anyone who is a pastor. So it says hold on. Let's go ahead and read. Let's go ahead and start here, because I was going to start at Titus 1:7, but let's go ahead and start at Titus 1:5. Let me see. So this is qualifications for elders. This is Paul, right? He says, "This is why I left you in Crete, so that you might put what remained into order and appoint elders in every town as I directed you. If anyone is above reproach, the husband of one wife, and his children are believers and not open to the charge of debauchery or insubordination." Now, notice this. It says his children are believers, right? There's plenty of pastors that I know or have known that their children are not believers. You know, and it's crazy because it's just like, here's the Bible basically saying that in order for a man to become an elder or to be an overseer, his children has to be believers. And I think that a lot of people miss that. A lot of pastors. First Titus 1:7, it says, "For an overseer, as God's steward, must be above reproach. He must not be arrogant or quick-tempered or a drunkard or violent or greedy for gain, but hospitable, a lover of good, self-control, upright, holy, and disciplined. He must hold firm to the trustworthy word as taught, so that he may be able to give instruction in sound doctrine and also rebuke those who contradict it." Now, this is where a lot of people get the hammer. Let me see if I can pull this back up. This is where a lot of good pastors get hammered, because when a pastor rebukes those who contradict the word, now you get called all types of names. Oh, you ain't nothing but a Pharisee. Oh, you just you just out here teaching that white man's doctrine. You trying to brainwash us, and and they quick to, especially they always quick to call you a Pharisee. When you rebuke those who contradict the Bible, and that's what a pastor is supposed to do. He's supposed to rebuke those who are out there contradicting the Bible, especially those who come into the church. That's why we don't just let anyone in and live their life any kind of way. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Read Mark's comment. It says, "Man, when you really look at those requirements for leadership in the church, it's no joke." Because you have to understand, and I totally agree with Mark, like, this is not a joke. That's why when a person wants to become a pastor, this is very, very serious, because you are becoming that spokesman for God. When you are a pastor and you're running a church, you better make sure that you are on point and you understand what that Bible is about. Because if you run up there because you think that you're a really good speaker and you can really wow the crowd, or you may just have somebody, a pastor, who may say, "Hey, listen, I'm trying to retire. I need somebody to run this church, and I think that you would be the right person to do it." If you're not ready, do not take that position, because this is very, very seriously. This is very serious. And if your house is not in order, to where your wife and your children are not in line with the word, you cannot be a pastor. You can't. And now I know that we can't make our children, or we can't basically make them be saved. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't make any of my children be saved. So it's not up to me. It's actually up to the Holy Spirit. But I know a lot of people who let their children do whatever. And they don't even, it's like they spend so much time doing stuff in the ministry than actually discipling their children or discipling their family at the home, that kids just grow apart. Sometimes some of these pastors even got wives that don't even like them or don't even respect them, because they're always gone. They're always out trying to tell everybody else how to get their house in order, but their house isn't in order. So being a pastor is something that is really, really serious. Because if you're saying that you're speaking for God, you better believe that you need to be speaking exactly what is written in the Bible. And you got to be ready, just like the scripture says, you got to be ready to rebuke people who contradict the word. And when we look at a guy like Carl Lentz, you can't tell me that who are some of these people that was named. You look at people like Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, the Kardashian girls. I mean, they live their lives contradictory to the Bible. So if you're not willing to talk to these people and basically say, like, hey, when you step into this church, this is something serious. You can't be out there, 1 minute sitting up in here on Sunday, but then on Monday we turn around and we see you in the WAP video. That can't work. And this is where church discipline has to continue to be administered. And this is why, I do agree with the pastors. And I don't know if when they say the pastors of Hillsong, when it says, what is it, Brian and Bobby? I want to make sure I get the names right. Yeah, Brian and Bobby. I'm wondering if Bobby is the wife. But Brian, if he is the person that's actually over the organization, I do believe that, I do agree that he does need to continue to practice church discipline, but it just can't be for the pastor. Like, church discipline has to be practiced for those who attend the church. Because here's the thing. You can get rid of the pastor, right? You can get rid of him and you can put another pastor in that position, and they can end up following down the same path, because you have a certain spirit in the church that you have not gotten out of. You haven't gotten that spirit out of the church. It's still there. And the only thing that you're going to do is you'll bring somebody in, they'll end up being influenced by that same spirit, and then they'll end up doing the same old thing. Now I'm hoping that, with Carl Lentz, I'm hoping that, and I do pray that Carl Lentz and his family, especially him, that he does come to repentance. I do pray that the Holy Spirit does come upon him and lead him to God's true word. But I just hope that no one like Joel Osteen and those guys pick him up and then put him as pastor over another church under their organization, because apparently under Joel Osteen, I mean, you can do these types of things and you can still be a pastor. All you got to do is look at John Gray. How many times John Gray has been caught cheating on his wife and he's still a pastor? You see what I'm saying? So I'm just hoping that Carl Lentz doesn't end up in another position of a pastor when he's now been disqualified from that position. And I just hope that nobody picks him up and says, well, this is a guy who can bring in some celebrities in my church, so let me go ahead and make him pastor of this church now. But I do hope that Carl Lentz does repent. And hopefully God just do a total 180 with him. I really pray for that. So yeah, that's basically it about Carl Lentz. And yeah, I just pray, man. I just pray that he just comes to Christ, and also those who are attending that church. All right, so we are going to get into this next topic. And like I said at the beginning of the video, maybe some of you guys didn't hear me, but I actually want to tell some of you guys or ask some of you guys, if you're not comfortable with talking about politics, we're going to be we're going to be talking politics right now. And if you're not comfortable with that, I just ask that you just go ahead and leave the live stream. Or if you don't want to leave the live stream, just refrain from putting all types of crazy and disparaging comments into the chat, because I know some people are going to say, well, why are you talking about politics? We ain't supposed to be talking about politics. Well, in reality, politics does affect us as Christians. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that do affect us as Christians, and we can't be like ostriches and sticking our head into the ground and just, waiting for something to just blow over. Some of these things we have to discuss because people need answers, and people want to know exactly how does the Lord view these things, and some of these things in politics, whether you want to believe it or not, they affect us. When you look at some of our brothers and sisters that's over there in China, for example, who are being persecuted by their own government, you know what I'm saying? Like these are things that affect. These are political things that are affecting those people over there in China, in the Middle East, in Africa. There are certain politicians and certain government institutions that are ignoring some of the things that are happening to the people in these countries who are Christian. I'm not talking about people who self-identify as Christian. I'm talking about people who are Christian, who are in churches. I think in Nigeria, it's a lady. Her name is Obianu Aju Ikocha. And I'm going to see if I can pull up a video. Let me see. Okay, so hold on one second. Let me go ahead and put this over here. And I'm not really going to play this video too much because it is a, I think it's kind of a long video. Hold on one second. Let me.
Quite sad. And so I am going to say that viewer discretion is really to be advised, but I'm going to share with you.
Now, this is what's going on in Nigeria.
Images. This is really about what has been happening for the past couple of years in my.
Okay, now wait, hold on. Now, you know how everybody, maybe, what was this? A couple of weeks ago, everybody talking about some NSARS, talking about the police brutality in Nigeria. This is way worse than SARS. And the government has been hiding this. So when people talk about, oh, we're not supposed to be talking about politics, it's important that we do talk about politics, especially when there are certain things that are happening against Christians.
My country, my home country. I am from Nigeria, from the southern part of Nigeria, but for the last couple of years, there have been atrocities going on around Nigeria, but particularly in the northern region of my country. Now, I have waited for many months because this has gone on for a long time, but in the last couple of months,
I want to go ahead and
I have just felt the need.
I'm going to go ahead and put the link to this video in the description. You guys can go ahead, check that video out, save it. But I'm just going to go ahead and let her talk a couple more minutes, and then we're going to get into the rest of the live stream.
For someone, anyone, not me particularly, but for somebody to put out a video about what is going on, to raise awareness, for people to start talking about it, to see people outside, particularly outside of Nigeria, talking about this, to also see Nigerians themselves talking about it. We do have a lot of celebrities from Nigeria. Those who may have heard of Nollywood know that we do have some very popular and spectacular actors and actresses and people who have really massive platforms. And I really thought that something to this magnitude should have caused at least one of our celebrities or some of our celebrities to pick up the camera and do something like what I am about to do today. Unfortunately, that has not happened, and the sadness has continued, and the atrocities have continued. In fact, it seems to have been escalating. What I am talking about, I'm sure many of you may have heard maybe a little bit about it or may have picked up snippets from here and there on the internet. But I just want to bring to your attention, the killings that have been going on in northern Nigeria. Not just the killings, but in fact, the genocide that is occurring. Yes, genocide, and I don't use that word lightly, that is occurring in the northern part of Nigeria, particularly, but not limited to, the Christians in northern Nigeria. Please bear with me today.
So you hear that, right? Now, we've been hearing about SARS, we've been hearing about, police brutality in Nigeria, but she did this in July. This is July 21st. And a lot of people don't even know that this has been happening, but the whole SARS thing, everybody's been talking about that.
Because I'm a little bit scatterbrained about all these things going on, because 2 days ago there was a horrific attack in a village in southern Kaduna. Now, before I go into that, let me just start by telling you some of the things that have happened from the beginning of this year and why it leading up to what has happened 2 days ago, why for me, it's really what has pushed me over the cliff, and I decided that I am going to take the courage and record this video. Now, it was at the beginning of this year, I believe it was January 8th of this year, that we got the horrific news of a violent attack and an unprecedented attack at a Catholic seminary in Kaduna. Now, I call it unprecedented, not because the violence has not already been happening, but because I am a Catholic born and bred in Nigeria, and never in my life had I, up to that point, ever heard of anything like this happening in a Catholic seminary.
Now I do want to put this disclaimer out there. I personally don't consider people who are Catholics as Christians. Like, their doctrine is totally different from evangelical doctrine, but there was one thing that Ravi Zacharias said, because he was asked the question, does he believe that there are some Catholics who we would consider Christians, basically, in a nutshell. So his response, to me, it was golden. He was like, there could be some people who are Catholics who consider themselves to be Catholics, and they have sound teaching, sound doctrine, but those people could be considered to be bad Catholics, just like there are some evangelicals who have some bad theology, and they will probably make good Catholics. You know what I'm saying? So, but I've been following her for maybe about 4 or 5 years now, and I don't hear too much about, because like she's against this current pope. Like, she doesn't believe that the pope is the person that's supposed to dictate what scripture says. Although in Catholicism, if you read their catechisms, that's what the pope is supposed to do. He dictates what is good and what is not good for the church. If you want to think about the pope, he's like the president of Catholicism. Like, he's the one who says this is right, this is wrong, this is what this scripture says, whatever. So by her saying that she's a Catholic, and I'm not going to try to get too much into this, but you have some people who have Catholic influences based on where they live, like, for instance, in places like Nigeria, but they have more of an evangelical understanding, of the word and the scriptures. So she's kind of one of those type of people, but let me just go ahead and just play a couple more minutes of this so you can kind of get the gist of what she's saying before we actually go into about what's going on here with our elections in our country.
It was at Good Shepherd Catholic Seminary, which is the major seminary in Kaduna where young men are being trained to become priests. On that very day, 19 armed men, 19 armed militia, terrorists, Islamic terrorists, Fulani herdsmen, they attacked the campus, they attacked the students. It was so vicious, so violent, so vile. And everybody tried to run away to save their own lives. And at the end of all of that, by the time the attacks ended, the school came together and I think they did a roll call. And then at that point, discovered that four of their students, four seminarians, had been kidnapped. Something that, as I said before, we've never heard of anything like this happening. Four seminarians being kidnapped by terrorists and taken away to some unknown location. And for a couple,
these are black guys too. And I just find it so ironic that you're not even hearing about that over here in the States. But this would have been some white Europeans who had killed some black guys. Oh man, please. It'll probably still be on social media right now.
A couple of weeks, after much prayer, much sadness, much efforts, 3 of the seminarians were recovered. I think one, first of all, was recovered and then 2 later. But then a couple of weeks after that, one of the seminarians, 18-year-old young man called Michael Nadi, was brutally murdered. And alongside him, there were some other people who were murdered, including a woman who I had heard that she's the wife of a Christian doctor. Now, this was a very heavy event that happened. But the one thing that really shocked me was how little people talked about it. Yes, on Twitter and on Facebook, there were some posts about it and people, were talking about it at that level. But no big platform ever really spoke about it. No big news station or media station ever talked about it. And it was incredible because if ever there was a sign, a very acute sign of Christian persecution, this would have been it. This should have been an image that the whole world, at that point, at the very beginning of this year, the whole world should have really been alerted to what went on and what transpired at Good Shepherd Seminary, and the world should have known to start raising alarm.
Yeah, and this is what I kind of want to segue into, especially when it comes to us and what's going on with our current election. And like I said, I put the link in the chat. You guys can scroll up and you can watch the rest of the video from Mrs. Ikocha. Yeah, go ahead and watch the rest of the video. Actually, subscribe to her channel. But that was actually the last video that she did. I don't know how come she hasn't done any more videos. But I know that she's like really, really heavy into doing things over in Nigeria. Especially, she deals with a lot of women, especially in the birth industry. She fights really, really hard against abortion, and people think that abortion over here is, just this whole fighting to have this woman's right to choose. We think that that's bad here, but in places like Nigeria and certain places in Africa, in places where there's a lot of poverty, they actually set up tents and camps to either, number one, give contraception to these women, or number two, they sterilize them in order for that certain particular area to get aid. So let's just say if there's a place where women are starving, where women and children are starving, there's no education, they don't have access to food, water, clean water or anything like that, you'll have these organizations that'll come in and they'll say, we'll give you all of that stuff, but we got to make sure that you guys ain't making no more babies. So you either got to become sterile, or you got to start taking these birth control pills, or you got to start using all of these condoms, or whatever. And it's kind of like, what does that have to do with a person who doesn't have any food, who doesn't have access to education, or clean water or anything like that. So that's what she really fights hard for. Now, when we talk about this election, this was a pretty, and still is, this is an important election. And there's a lot at stake. Instead of, I hate Trump and I want him out because I feel that he's a racist, because CNN and MSNBC and these other channels have just told me that that's what he is. So therefore, I have to follow them and believe that he's a racist and we got to have him out. No matter what Biden and Kamala Harris have said or what they believe should happen, concerning people who are Christians, right? No matter, no matter what Joe Biden's and Kamala Harris' stance on abortion, school of choice. I know 2014, Barack Obama wanted to ban homeschooling. He said if it was up to him, he would ban homeschooling, right? So these are the same type of people that who may end up in office. And I know that there's a lot of stuff. I know that the Trump administration is doing some things to where they're trying to fight against the election results. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I'm sorry, I'm just reading Mark's comment. He says, very important election. I believe Trump is a devil. I'm sorry. LOL. But no matter what you think about a person like Donald Trump, or no matter what you think about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I do believe that when we get ready to vote, especially us as Christians, we have to look at policies. We have to look at what both sides are saying. And I know it's tough. I'm not going to sit back and say, oh, well, all you got to do is just pull that lever for Trump because, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they're totally pro-abortion. They're totally, against this and against that. That may affect us as Christians. But we have to be able to look at policies. And we have to look at what can we as Christians do? What policies can we benefit from in order to say that we can continue to go out and spread the gospel? So therefore, we won't be impeded by being able to go out and fellowship, worship. Like right now, I heard today that I think like the UK, I think that they've kind of gone back into lockdown, but they've kind of like put a lot of restrictions on the church. Like they're even threatening to jail people or fine people, just like in California, if people come together for worship. But when it comes to other things, they kind of eased the restrictions on some of these other institutions. So now it's like when I look at so it's like when I'm looking at people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and especially Gavin Newsom over there in California, of all of the crazy restrictions that they've put in, that they've put against the churches, I'm like, it's how can you vote for a person like that? And then when you ask the question, why would a person want to vote for somebody who is totally against their self-interest or totally against their interest as a Christian, if the only response that I get is, well, Donald Trump, he says things that I don't like. I just don't like seeing him as president, And it's that type of compromise that we really have to be careful about. We really have to we have to make sure that we're not siding with the enemy because we don't like this other person. We may consider that person an enemy. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump and the Republicans are the standard or they are the model for Christians or Christianity, or Christians should get behind Donald Trump or they should get behind the Republican Party, because they all have in countries like China or India, for example, to where people, just because he's been out preaching the gospel, there are some people that I know who are Indian who actually had to go into hiding. Hold on one second. As Cherry said, I'm buffering. Hold on one second. Let me take a look at this. Okay. Well, I'm looking at the live YouTube feed. Looks like everything is okay so far. Okay. All right. Oh, as Cherry said, I'm back. All right, cool. Yeah, I just had to go ahead and check the live feed. All right, here we go. All right, Mark says, I always tell people your faith and your politics will collide if you're a Republican or Democrat, but you must not leave the political process. Same limitations on gathering limits were put on private businesses, so we're also no different than churches. Well, not really. And I'm trying to remember, because if you think about, for instance, if you think about what happened in California, I think like Gavin Newsom or something, he owns like a brewery, where he brews like beer and all of that stuff. He closed out everybody else's brewery, closed down the church. Excuse me. I don't think it was in California, but I think this may have happened in Texas or one of these other states where a pastor was arrested for having more than 50 people inside of his church. But I know that John MacArthur had been going through some things, with California and LA and all of that stuff. They're trying to shut his church down. They're coming out with these ridiculous mandates, like you can't sing, and if you do sing, then you gotta like be like pretty quiet. You gotta be 6 feet away, you gotta have a mask, and it's just all of this crazy stuff. But when it comes to these protests, and you see people out here protesting with no mask on, they're not 6 feet away. They're not social distancing. And it's just like, well, how come you're allowing that, but you can't allow people to be in the building worshiping the Lord? So when I started to look at things like that, you can't help but see that they're targeting the church. You know what I'm saying? Like how can a lot of people not see that? It's just like with Nancy Pelosi, right? She shut down all of the salons, but then she turns around and goes to a salon herself, and they got her on camera doing a thing that she's already told people that they couldn't do. Regular people can't go to the salon, but she can go to the salon and get a blowout. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of hypocrisy that has been going on. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's been coming from the Democratic Party on the left. And I'm not saying that because I side with one party or another, but we got to be able to call out hypocrisy when it's there. But this is why I've been calling out people like the people in the whole woke church. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of people running around here, Black people in particular, basically saying that they believe that this is a win. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, this is a win. This is somehow going to help change the course of this country, and things are going to get better for Black people. And I'm just like, where? How? Like, I haven't heard any policies, especially from the Democratic Party, to say that, hey, we're going to stop this, or we're going to put an end to that, or we're going to work on this to not only just help the Black community, but policies that are to help Christians. And Donald Trump, he got criticized for having a bunch of pastors at the White House, I think within the first year, of him getting in office. No, I didn't agree with the pastors that he had there, like John Gray. He had like John Gray, and he had some other charismatic pastors there. I mean, I didn't like that. But at least he did sit down and say, hey, I want Black Christian leaders here to where we can end up having a conversation to see what you guys need. What do you guys want? And a lot of those Black pastors, they turned their backs on him because the media was claiming that he was a racist, and these people did not want to be criticized by their congregation. And I just feel like that when somebody is willing to sit down and have a conversation with you, I don't care who you think it is or who you think that they are. Will you sit? I mean, you can sit down and have a conversation with somebody and say, hey, this is what is concerning us. This is what's happening in our communities. This is what's happening in our churches. You're saying you're calling us. You're calling us to say, what do we need? Can you be willing as a Christian to sit down and say, this guy's a pagan, but he's in a position of power to make sure that certain things are happening, not only in our communities, but also in our churches. So me as a Christian, I'll say, okay, yeah, I'll go sit down and have a conversation with you. And if you don't come through, then, I mean, still no skin off my back. I'm still going to come out here and preach the gospel. And plus, if I'm a Christian and if I'm going to sit in front of the president who's actually called me to say, what do you need? I'm not asking for anything in return. The least I can do is go and sit down and hear him out. You know what I'm saying? Now here's Mr. Mark Harris. He says, man, brother, come on now. Trump could care less about God or a Black pastor. But at the same time, Mr. Harris, what about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Are they going to be willing to sit down with a lot of Black pastors and preachers? Are they? Tell me how, and this is what I want Mr. Harris to tell me. And I'm just saying this, because we're just having a conversation. But I want to know, is there any plan for the Biden-Harris administration that is going to help Black people, number one, and are they willing to actually sit down with Black pastors to make sure that they have access to resources and capital to be able to make an impact on the Black community? And that's what I want to know. I just want to know these things, because when I see people jumping around and they're voting for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, I'm asking, I'm like, okay, well, besides Orange Man bad, I hate Trump, what else can we gain as Christians? How is this going to help us when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they are both pro-abortion? Abortion affects the Black community heavy. When you're having more Black babies aborted than Black babies being born, that's a problem. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. That is a problem in the Black community. Now, we got to be real about that. Not only just the Black community, but when you're saying that we're going to make it to where a woman can have an abortion anytime she wants. And by the way, abortion is not some woman going in and having some outpatient procedure. She's going in there to literally kill her child. That's what abortion is. Abortion is not, some woman going in there and she visits some fairy godmother and she waves a magic wand around and helps her out with her situation. No, they go in there and a baby is pulled limb from limb from that mother's womb. That is what abortion is. And I don't know if any of you have actually seen the procedure, but you need to go and watch it. Everybody who believes that abortion is something that we shouldn't really be talking about, is something that's kind of taboo, or we need to be worrying about, Black Lives Matter and, black men being shot by cops, go watch an abortion video. That's what I want you to go do. If you think that we're supposed to not worry about that, but we're supposed to just kind of be like, don't worry about the whole abortion thing. Let's talk about these other issues that the mainstream media is putting in front of us. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support abortion. Watch a video. Watch the abortion procedure. You don't even have to watch it. Listen to what abortion doctors has to say about the procedure of abortion. And you tell me if that's something that God will be behind. And if you're a black Christian and you believe that you should vote for a candidate who supports that type of procedure, the intentional killing of a life, over a guy who just said something or may not even act the way that you want him to act, if you're willing to make a decision to where you would vote for a person who supports and promises that they're going to make sure that women can legally kill their children, shame on you. Shame on you. And I mean, Donald Trump is not the best presidential candidate. He's not even a Christian. Yes, he has said some really bad things. Yes, he doesn't look like the model, charismatic, president that we would like to see. Young, handsome, soft-spoken, well-spoken, articulate. But the thing is that you're willing to vote for a person who has all of the qualities that you want to see a black woman in the office. You want to see a guy who's a career politician in the office who was up under Barack Obama, the first black president. And if you're looking at those two things and you're saying that, oh, well, this person is, I like this person because of those traits, it's like these people have nothing in common with Christians. None whatsoever. They're not even promising to even pass any bills. Anything that's going to help the Christian community. These are people who have been against Christians. And you think that if it really goes down, that they're going to spare you? It's just like when I look at the woke church, when they really start to drop the hammer down on Christians, and when they get to the point, and I believe it's going to come, that they're going to start banning homeschool. Obama said it in 2014 that if it was up to him, he'll do it. And me, I homeschool my children. That's going to affect me. So a lot of these people who are black and they're Christian and they're jumping up screaming, oh yeah, we won. What did you actually win? How was this a win? Do you think that the black community is going to get better because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is in office? By the way, the two people who ended up locking up a bunch of black men, Joe Biden with a 94 crime bill, Kamala Harris, who blocked evidence to try to keep black men in prison so she can get free labor out of them. Tulsi Gabbard brought that up last year in a debate, and she shredded her to pieces about that. And that's why Kamala Harris started to lose ground in a debate. That's why when it was getting close to the primaries, that's why she barely had 1% of the vote because of that. And a lot of black people decided that they weren't going to vote for Kamala. They didn't even like Kamala because they said that she's a cop. She ain't going to do nothing but try to put more black men in jail. But now all of a sudden, she becomes vice president. She becomes Joe Biden's running mate. And all of a sudden, all is forgiven. We're not gonna talk about all of the evidence that she tried to keep black men locked. I think it was over 1,000 black men. Her being a prosecutor, I think it was somewhere in California. Look it up. Look this stuff up. Joe Biden, the 94 crime bill, and actually Kamala Harris shredded Joe Biden about the whole 94 crime bill and busing. She inadvertently tried to call him racist. But y'all didn't see that. That was during the Democratic debate last year. This was last year. This wasn't like 3, 4, 5 years ago. This was last year. where she challenged him about busing. And what did she insinuate? Oh, well, when I was a little girl, I was being bussed, and you said that you didn't want your children going to school, and it being like a jungle. This is the guy. But people, well, orange man bad, hate Donald Trump. And a lot of people who did vote for Donald Trump, they don't even really like Donald Trump like that. They really don't. And there's a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of Trump supporters. Now, you do got those who are just hardcore, oh, Trump, Trump, Trump. But a lot of people who have voted for Trump, they'll say they all come to the same conclusion. I mean, he's not the best candidate, but when I'm looking at policy and I'm looking at a lot of things that he actually is out there doing and a lot of things that he said that he's going to do, I'm willing to put my chips on that guy than to put it on this person who I know who shares none of my interests. People talk about some of the sexual scandals that Donald Trump has been in. But then when you look at Joe Biden, again, who was, I think it was last year, there was a lady who came out, or there was a few ladies who came out saying that he had sexually assaulted them. And what did Kamala Harris said? She said, I believe those women. I believe that Joe Biden actually sexually assaulted those women. You see what I'm saying? So if it's not okay for Donald Trump to have sexual allegations against him, and we're going to hold him to that standard, but when Joe Biden has sexual allegations against him, we're not going to talk about that, but we'll vote for him anyway, then what's the difference between you voting for Biden or voting for Trump? If both of these men have been accused of sexual misconduct, how do you make that determination? If you're a Christian, we have videos. There's even videos of him, sniffing little girls and, rubbing little girls on the face, which is just, you just know that if Donald Trump had done anything like that, please, there would be all types of investigations on him with him being inappropriate with children. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I get a lot of people who are Black Christians and they vote Democrat no matter what, and they just, hate Donald Trump. We hate him because, he's not a man of God. He's not this, he's not that. But then when you look at your candidates are actually worse than him. Says, listen, you don't have the facts. We need to do a live Zoom call or educate you on the Bill and Kamala Harris. All right. Well, listen, guess what? I'm going to have you on in 1 minute. In 1 minute. Give me a second. So basically, and this is what I kind of want to get into as well. And I want to make this point clear. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this live stream, is because there's a lot of people who have divided the church over politics. From 2016 until now, there have been people who have split and they've divided the church because they did not like Donald Trump or they did not like somebody else's stance politically. I remember when Jamar Tisby, as soon as Donald Trump got elected, he said that he didn't feel safe worshiping with white people anymore because they voted for Donald Trump. Now, I'm just like, you've been in the church that you've been in for how long? And now, just because Donald Trump gets elected into office, now you don't feel safe and you lack the discernment of worshiping with people who are white that you didn't see this before 2016. But then Donald Trump becomes president. Now they're racist. And there's been a lot of people, especially those in the woke church, running around calling white people racist just because these people differ politically. And they've wanted to see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris or some Democrat in office besides Donald Trump. And you've called people, Mark Harris says he wants to do this. I don't know if I'll be available later this week. Because, you know, I'm pretty busy, especially when it comes to like, you know, work and my my business and family and stuff. So that's why I try to do my live streams on Saturdays and Sundays. I did want to go live yesterday, but I couldn't go live because I was just so busy yesterday, Saturday. I probably wouldn't have been able to get on until about 10 o'clock. So that's why I chose tonight to try to hop on, tonight and try to get this live stream, try to get on and go live tonight. But like I was saying, when you have certain people in the woke church who just want Donald Trump out by no means necessary, that is very scary. Because these are people who are sitting next to you in church right now, who are calling you brother, they're calling you sister. And if something happens, and if the media is able to sway their minds a certain way, they can be influenced by the media to now divide you, when we're only supposed to use the word of God to divide. The word of God is supposed to be our foundation on whether or not we divide against those who are believers and those who are unbelievers. There's a lot of these people running around here dividing Christians, saying that, yeah, I still consider this person a brother or a sister in Christ, but I'm going to divide because they don't believe that Black Lives Matter is a legit organization, or they voted for Trump and I voted for, Hillary in 2016. You see what I'm saying? When we're only supposed to be able to use the Bible as our foundation, politics is supposed to come secondary. So this is why this whole woke church movement started up, and this is why I'm so critical over this whole woke church garbage. Yes, it's garbage, because you're dividing people out of the church. You call them black people who don't think like you, coons and Uncle Toms, and then every person that's white is a racist that don't fully agree with your false teachings. So I wonder what are these guys going to do? All of these guys like Eric Mason and Damon Richardson, now that Trump is out of office, which I believe, because I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be able to overturn this election. I believe that he's going to try, but I really believe that the media and the powers that be are going to try to make sure that he's out of office. And I know that people are dependent on Supreme Court. I don't think that the Supreme Court can overturn this, because it's anybody who's looking at this can see that there's some fishy stuff going on. I'm not going to use the word corruption. I'm not going to use the word rigged or anything, but I want you guys to understand something. When you have a person like Donald Trump, who in 2016 beat Hillary Clinton, right? He beat Hillary Clinton, and he had a certain voter base. In 2020, he increased his voter base. And not only that, he was running against a guy who was not as popular as Hillary. A lot of Democrats did not want to vote for neither Kamala or Biden. The Democrats also lost their base to Donald Trump. So how is Trump losing? How did he lose if you don't think that there's something fishy going on? And we got reports of people who are dead casting ballots. There's pictures of people who have casted ballots who are dead. So you tell me that something fishy isn't going on. But here's the main point that I'm trying to make. Here's the main point. This is where I'm going to drive the point home. Do you not think for 1 second that you as a Christian is safe in this country? If they can do all of this to one guy who's the sitting president, what chance do you got as a Christian when they start to paint Christians as these hateful, bigoted, just nasty people? Thank you for the super chat. So when they start to paint us as that, and when they say that this is the reason why we need to, start making sure that Christians are limiting their fellowship, their worships, like they're doing in China. They're doing this in China right now. You can't openly worship and fellowship in China. They'll end up locking you away and throwing away the key. There's plenty of pastors over there right now who are locked up for preaching the gospel. So if they can do this to a sitting president, when they start putting the hammer down on Christians and they start taking your liberties away, what do you think that you're going to be able to? Who can you go to and say, "Hey, we got our rights. That the Constitution says that you can't do this. You can't do that to us." Are you serious? Do you really think that you are safe in this country? We already, and just like I said earlier, we already got a president and a vice president who are totally against Christian liberties. These same people who are restricting Christian rights in places like California, they support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They all have the same mind. So it's only a matter of time where us as Christians, where they're going to start coming down on us. Because you got to remember, before Barack Obama was out of office, what was happening? They were coming down on a lot of Christians then. Remember the guy who was the cake baker? I think he was in Ohio or something. And the gay guys just kept coming in there, bothering him, trying to make him make cakes. And they knew that he was a Christian, but they was trying to make him make these LGBTQ cakes. And he says, "No, I'm sorry, I really don't do those types of cakes." They could have went down the street to another cake baker, but they decided to keep harassing him. And the Democrats, they were basically egging these guys on. And the mainstream media was just like, "Oh, this guy, oh, he's such a bigot. Oh, he's just so hateful." And they casted him as a hateful, bigoted, evangelical Christian because he refused to provide a certain service to a person who was trying to make him go against his own conscience and what his business stood for. If I don't like a person's service or business, I'll just say, "Okay, fine. I'll go somewhere else." I've had that happen to me. I've had people who were white, who had white establishments, basically tell me in so many words that they were not going to serve me. I didn't just make a big fuss about it. I just, okay, you know what? I'll just go somewhere else. I've walked into restaurants and watched white people behind the counter call other white people around me and totally ignore me. Like I wasn't even standing there. I mean, just, "Oh, we'll take that guy behind you." So don't tell me that, "Oh, well, maybe he should have just done it." No, it's people run their businesses a certain way. And me as a black guy or as a Christian, I don't have to go and spend my money at someone's business. But when you have these guys who are continuing to go and harass this guy, I think it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And what was happening was that it wasn't that the ruling or this guy fighting this to make sure that the ruling was okay, that the ruling went in his favor, but the fees that he had to pay, the legal fees, because every time you get ready to go to court, you got to pay a lot of fees. And that's what they was trying to do. They didn't want the man to have a business. And the Democrats they thought that he was in the wrong. And these are the same people that's getting ready to get back in office. Now, but again, I'm asking you guys, when they really start to put the hammer down on you as a Christian, and they really start to strip you of your Christian liberties, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? When Uncle Joe Biden and Sister Girl Kamala Harris get up in there, and you start to see that you can't homeschool no more, when you start to see where a lot of things that you were able to do as a Christian, you can't really do anymore, your church starts to feel the heat, it starts to feel the pressure. I want to read what Mark said. It says, Brother Joe Biden, Kamala Harris are not against Christian liberty. Yes, they are. Now, why in God's name are you sitting up here blaming all Democrats for a problem with a gay man and a dog on a cake? Well, this is it's not the people who are instituting these things. And y'all, and we have to, this is the thing, we have to start being honest. We can say that it's not all Democrats. Okay, fine, it's not all Democrats. But when I'm looking at a person like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who are promising that they're going to be able to keep things like abortion legal, and they're going to make it to where women can have it on demand, that is a direct attack on God. That's what it is. And they're saying that they're going to take your tax dollars to pay for it. So as a Christian, if my Christian liberty is to say, I don't want to pay for abortion, I don't want that coming out of my check or my taxes to go towards that, then what Christian do you know is okay with that? Mr. Mark Harris says that there's no assault on Christians. Brother, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I really don't know what to tell you, because anybody who has been a Christian over the past 10 years can see that we are losing a lot of our liberties. These things are just not being talked about. Like I said, I'm going to see if I can pull this up. Excuse me. Bear with me 1 second. Let me see. Okay. Now, actually, I said it was 2014. This is actually 2013. Now, this is what happened in 2013. Now, you can read the title. Obama Justice Department, draconian Nazi-era law banning homeschooling promotes tolerance. Okay. Now, this was a German family who basically had to end up trying to get asylum over here in America. Now, let me explain something to you. If a person is being persecuted against their religious liberties in another country, the United States take them in as refugees. The United States did not want to take this family in because they were a Christian family and they were homeschooling. The Democrats were fighting to get this family removed out of the country. Now, I'm trying to see if they're going to put that quote, because I haven't read this in a while. Okay, so let's read this. The HSLDA contends that Germany's actions amount to persecution, a platform on which the Romiki family can claim asylum, and filed a reply to the Justice Department brief on June 28th. Now, they were trying to, once again, apply for asylum because under the asylum law, if you are being persecuted because of your religious beliefs, then you can be, then the United States is one of those countries to where you can come into the country and you can seek asylum from religious persecution. Silencing the intolerant to promote tolerance is not only illogical, it is antithetical to any theory of freedom of conscience, the HSLDA said in the reply. Attorney General Holder is trying to seek dismissal of the case because he believes that targeting specific groups in the name of tolerance is within the normal legitimate functions of a government. This is Attorney General Eric Holder. He was under Obama's staff. He says that tolerance is within the normal legitimate functions of the government, just like the Jews in Nazi Germany. All right. Let me see. This cannot be the ultimate position of the United States without denying the essence of our commitment to liberty. We're trying to provide a home for this family who will otherwise go back to jail, who otherwise go back to facing fines, jail time, and forcible removal of their children because of their religious convictions and how their children should be educated. Why Attorney General Holder thinks that this is appropriate for any country to do this to a family simply for homeschooling is beyond me. Now, just to kind of put this in perspective, this is a German family who are Christian. In Germany, it is illegal. It is illegal to homeschool your children. Now, Mark says, man, answer this question. Is homeschool illegal in the United States? Answer it right now. I'll wait. No, it's not. But when you have a person like Attorney General Holder, Eric Holder, who is basically saying that, you know, these guys, they should be able to, this country should be able to lock this guy up if he decides that he wants to homeschool his children because of his religious views and his religious convictions. Then that should be it. I'm trying to bring up that quote because I'm really trying to bring that up because I really, really want to show you where Obama did say. Okay, now Mr. Mark Harris, you're starting to be a little ignorant right now. I didn't say that there is a law banning the homeschooling in the United States. First of all, let's talk about school of choice. Now, did you know that school of choice is included with homeschooling? And you know who's trying to come against school of choice? The Democrats. They're basically trying to say that your kids need to go to the schools that we tell them to go to. And even when it comes to children being homeschooled, there's even talks about them trying to make it to where that homeschooling is not going to be something that's accredited, that you can't get any accreditation. So, sir, you said Eric Holder didn't say that. I just played for you what he just said. That's what he wrote. I wish I could find that quote. Hold on, give me a second. It's the problem that hold on, let me see. Now see, now you're gonna make me turn around and do a whole nother video. You're gonna make me do a whole nother video on this, Mr. Mark Harris. But anyway, but that's not really my point. You know, I really don't want to end up in a rabbit hole. But my main point is basically saying that if they're able to do these things to a sitting president, if they're able to do these things to a sitting president, then what makes you think that all Christian liberties are protected? If they're able to do what they're doing with this election, when they really start to bring the hammer down on us, do you really think that this is going to end up being that we're going to have some type of liberty, or we can go to the government and make people stop persecuting us? Because no matter what you think, this is going to happen. The Bible already talked about it. So that's a spoiler alert. The Bible already talked about us being able, we're going to be suffering persecution. We are going to be persecuted because we are not like the world. We don't look like the world. We don't talk like the world. We don't sound like the world. And Jesus said, if they hated you, they're going to hate me. No, he says, since they hated me, they're going to hate you. And if they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. So this isn't something that we should be shocked, right? And I know, let me see. I think it was 1 Peter. I think it was 1 Peter, where he says, you know, when you're being persecuted, don't think that this is something that is don't be shocked when this is happening. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull that up. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. Let's go ahead and open this up. First Peter 4:12. Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed because of the Spirit of glory and of God's rest, and God rests upon you. But let none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or as a meddler. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. And if it begins with us, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? So now you tell me where Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are obeying the gospel of God. Please tell me that. And if the righteous is scarcely saved, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner? Therefore, let those who suffer according to God's will entrust their souls to a faithful Creator while doing good. So no matter what happens, no matter what happens to us in the end, we have to remember this in 1 Peter 4:12 to verse 19. Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And like I said, I'm not saying that the Republican Party is the Christian party and the Democratic Party is the satanic party. But when we're seeing people who are totally against, they're totally against the will of God, and they're promoting heinous stuff such as abortion, we can't sit back and say that, well, you know, we'll just vote for that person, you know, just because I don't like the other candidate. And I knew that Mark Harris is going to have a problem with this because he has a picture of Barack Obama right there, right? You know, Barack Obama, who made sure that the LGBT people had their rights. He made sure that when it came to the LGBTQ community, they're going to make sure that they have their rights. But this is the guy that he supports. This is the guy who put the rainbow colors on the White House. But this is a guy who is a Christian who supports Barack Obama. Another thing that I wanted to touch on before I get out of here is that when we're talking about the mark of the beast, right? And I'm not one of these conspiracy people. And I'm not going to, because you do get a lot of people who, let me see one second. Let me see. I just want to go ahead and prepare this. Let me see. So yeah, when we talk about the mark of the beast, and like I said, I'm not one of these conspiracy theorist people, right? And there's a lot of people who run around here who will try to use Revelation, like a lot of the Hebrew Israelites, and you get some people of the Seventh-day Adventists. They love quoting Revelation, and they like talking about the mark of the beast. And a lot of people think that the mark of the beast is going to be this physical thing. They think that the SWAT team going to bust into your house, put guns to your head, have you and your family all on your knees, and some doctor in a white lab coat is going to come in and say, hey, you need to take this microchip in your hand or we're going to kill you guys. That is not what's going to happen. The mark of the beast is going to be contingent upon the thoughts and the actions of that person, especially the believer. When we're talking about people accepting the mark, we're not talking about the world, because Christ says the world has already received this judgment. So we're not talking about your secular neighbor. We're talking about people who are believers or who claim to be believers. This is what the scripture is talking about. So people accepting the mark, these are going to be people who are calling themselves Christians and followers of God. And to me, I don't think that the mark is going to be something physical. I believe it's going to be something that is going to be within your heart, something that you're going to desire. And you're going to want it so bad that you're going to be willing to kill someone or to watch someone else be killed in order to receive that mark. And I think that that's what this election or these past 4 years have basically proven to a guy like me, of how people have been willing to throw the church up under the bus. And they've been willing to throw other Christians up under the bus based on their political views. So let's go ahead and read Revelation. I'm going to start at Revelation 13 and 11. So then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all authority of the first beast in its presence, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. It performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in front of the people. And by the signs that is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. This is why I don't like when people use these images of these presidents and stuff like this. You see what I'm saying? So this is why I don't believe that Christians should be having images of presidents like this. Because our allegiance is to God. Our allegiance isn't to some political figure. But let's continue to read. Where was I? Okay. Verse 15. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who will not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Also, it creates all, both small and great, both rich and poor, free and slave, to be marked on the right hand on their forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That is, in the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, I'm not saying that this is a certain person that we know that is walking the earth today. But what I'm saying is that there are going to be a lot of people, Christians, people who call themselves believers, who are going to want the mark. I've seen people going crazy over these masks. I've seen people just, I mean, for real, people are willing. I've even heard people not willing to call people Christians who did not wear a mask. It's true. I've seen stuff like that. I've seen articles where there are people saying that you can't be a Christian if you don't wear a mask when you're out in public. That is crazy to me. You mean to tell me that a person's salvation depends on a piece of cloth around their face because the media said that you need to wear it? That right, if that was the mark of the beast right there, trust me, a lot of people will be headed. A lot of people will be headed to hell right now. But that's the way that a lot of people treated it. And just like what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, there are a lot of people diving head first for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for whatever reason, I don't know. And a lot of these people, they're calling themselves Christians. They're calling themselves Christians, but they're diving head first for a person who promises to instill something or to double down on the topic of abortion. They said that it should be a woman's right to choose to where she can kill her baby or not, and they want to make it to where us as taxpayers will pay for it. And there's even some states saying that even after the baby is born, if the woman decides that she doesn't want the baby after the baby is born, they'll go ahead. They will make it to where a woman could be able to have that choice to kill that baby on site after the baby is born. So what are we actually talking about here? What are we talking about? I think it was in New York where there was questioning one of the lawmakers there where they was asking her, they said, listen, if the woman is crowning, would you still want to perform an abortion? And she basically said, yeah. If the woman is crowning, if that woman says, you know what, I don't want this kid, a doctor can go in there and extract that baby and kill that baby while that woman is crowning. You can't make this stuff up. You got to look it up. Now look at Mr. Mark Harris. He said, I don't agree with abortion or homosexuality, but you have a picture of the president who totally agrees with homosexuality and abortion. He said it himself. He said that he supports abortion because he believes that it is his Christian liberty. And he also said that he doesn't want his daughter to live with a mistake that she's made. This is what your president said. Let me see if I can. Right here. This guy, Barack Obama, said that. Now, if you say that you don't agree with that, then why is he your profile picture? He says, or greed, or racism, or adultery, but yet you threw me up under the bus. Judge me, and everything sounds like a hypocrite to me. I'm not judging you, sir. I'm pointing out the obvious. In no way am I judging you. I'm not calling you out your name. What I'm saying is that you're saying that you don't agree with abortion or homosexuality, but Barack Obama does. And you got him as your profile picture. That's the problem. This is the problem that I'm talking about. And this is what we have to start addressing. We can't just sit back and just let people just do whatever and say whatever. And just because, oh, well, I believe in Jesus, I love Jesus. No. There are certain issues that are going on when you have a person such as yourself who is idolizing a man who agrees with abortion and homosexuality. He ran on that. He especially ran on homosexuality. Now, you can't tell me that he didn't do that. Before he even got into office, he was basically like, yeah, I'm going to make sure that homosexual people get their liberties. He gave extra rights. He legalized gay marriage. So, sir, how can you sit back and make it seem like that I'm judging you? I'm not judging you. You're basically putting condemnation on yourself. He says there is no federal taxpayer-funded abortions. Are you crazy? Do you know how much money do we give to Planned Parenthood? 2016, we gave $500 million. No, it wasn't 2016. I think it was 2017. In that budget, the budget that they were do you guys remember when we went into when they shut down the government for almost 3 weeks? That was because the Democrats wanted $500,000. $500 million to go towards Planned Parenthood. The Republicans said, no, some of these things we're not going to fund. We're not going to fund. We're not going to put that much money into Planned Parenthood. And guess what? You remember when Donald Trump, when he came to an agreement, they basically almost came to a stalemate. But Donald Trump said, okay, we're not going to lock down the government. We're not going to keep it locked down for, all of this time. Let me go ahead and sign this. And what was the first thing he said? He says, I don't like this budget. He says, but I'm going to sign it because I want the American people to get back to work. And this guy basically said that there is no federal taxpayer-funded abortions. We give hundreds of millions of dollars to Planned Parenthood. Donald Trump was actually, I don't know if he's still doing it now, but he was actually working on a bill to where Planned Parenthood can be funded, but they can't he did come up with that. And he said that Planned Parenthood will give them money, but if they're going to continue to do abortions, then we're not going to give them money. And you know what Planned Parenthood did? They said, that's all right. We don't want the funding. Because they knew that majority of their money comes from abortions. And you believe for 1 minute that the result of this election, that there aren't people from the powers that be who got their hands all into this election? All of these people who claim to be Christians diving head first with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I don't agree with abortion, but I'm going to vote for the guy who says that he promises to make sure that a woman can have an abortion anytime she wants at any time of her pregnancy, even after she's given birth to that baby. But you're a Christian and you don't. So if a person like Donald Trump is basically saying, I'm going to cut the restrictions on, or I'm going to put restrictions on abortion, you're not going to vote for that guy. But you and that guy is basically on the same page because Donald Trump doesn't like abortion. He's actually working with advocates to help put more and more restrictions on abortion. People are already talking about, we think that he's going to try to reverse Roe versus Wade. And if you're a Christian and you believe that if you agree with that, but you hate Donald Trump, but then you're going to turn around and vote for Joe Biden, who is against the thing and promotes the things that you hate, where's the logic in that? Where's the consistency? As Christians, we're supposed to be consistent in our worldview. But this is why we have to pray for a lot of those. And you're right, Mr. Savoy. No one feels God. Anybody, I ain't even gonna say that. I'm gonna leave that one alone. Mike Flame says that abortion is a euphemism for murder. That's what it is. That's what it is. Like I said, go look it up. Go watch or listen to a person talk about the procedure of abortion. This man said that that's a lie. What do you say? Hold on. So that's a lie. Late-term abortions is illegal in the United States for now. That's what we're saying, sir. I'm saying for now, it's illegal. But these are people that are Kamala Harris and Joe Biden said it. They basically alluded to it to say that they're going to push for late-term abortions, that a woman should be able to choose anytime she wants to have an abortion. Just because you're saying that it's illegal now, yeah, it's illegal now under Donald Trump. So what's going to happen when they start to really push this? What are you going to say then? Well, I mean, it was illegal, but since it's legal now, but that's all right. Sister girl Kamala, she gonna make it all right. Uncle Joe Biden, he gonna straighten it all out. It's Christians like you, sir, who are the same ones talking about, well, gay marriage ain't legal. It ain't legal. Y'all talking about, y'all so concerned about gay marriage and what gay people do. It ain't legal. But your president made sure it was. Anyway, guys, this is a pretty long live stream. I'm getting ready to get up out of here, man. Mrs. Vanessa Askew. Well, here's the thing, Mrs. Askew. We're not talking about what sins is worse than others. I was talking about a specific topic. And, and just like I said at the beginning of the video, you know what I'm saying? If you guys didn't want to talk about, if you guys didn't want to talk about politics, you didn't really have to say anything, or you just didn't even have to watch. But, with all due respects, we're not, what you're saying is kind of off topic. And you're saying that, oh, you're only focused on one, but we're not talking about just what sin is greater than the others, or what sins should we be addressing. This is about a president that Black Christians are supporting, saying that they're just diving head first into this. And they're just saying that I support this president, who are basically saying that abortion is something that they promote. They support abortion. And when you have people who consider themselves Christians who are supporting this candidate who supports abortion, who promises to give extra rights to women who want to murder their children in the womb, I'm simply asking the question, how can a Christian do that? And how can a Christian say, well, I don't agree with abortion. I don't agree with, women murdering their children in the womb, but I'm going to vote for that person anyway. I'm not going to vote for the guy who said, I'm going to work to add tougher restrictions to abortion to make sure that women don't get restrictions. I mean, to where women don't get abortions. But as a matter of fact, I'm going to put money into other organizations to make sure that there is funding, to make sure that there are other avenues for these women to go down, to make sure that they don't have to kill their children. I want to make sure that those organizations are funded to provide those resources. You're going to hate that guy. You're going to vote against that guy and vote for the person who is promising abortion. That's what we're talking about here. They're promoting abortion. You're going to vote for that person, but you don't agree with them with their stance on abortion. But the guy that you do agree with, who has the same stance that you have on the abortion issue, you're going to vote. You're not going to vote for that guy. You're going to hate that guy. That's where the inconsistency is. So we're not talking about what sin, this sin, that sin versus. No, we're not talking about that. Now, I'm pretty sure you probably haven't been watching the whole live stream, but that's what we were talking about. So it's not just focusing on one sin. We're focusing on one sin for a reason. And this is why we have to learn how to listen and watch the videos in context. Not just hear one thing and then just fly off the handle and just say, oh, but you're not talking about nothing else, because we're not talking about anything else. But anyway, as promised, man, I got to get out of here, guys. And I can, oh, man. I can talk about this all night, but I'm just gonna go ahead and post some more comments. She says, "You have pricked the heart of many, and now we are seeing the wheat separate from the tare." And that is exactly what God is doing now. God is separating the wheat from the tares. And honestly, I'm telling you, it hurts. Y'all think that when I have disagreements with people, like I'm just like, oh, well, we just gonna have a disagreement. No, man, this stuff hurts, man. When I sit back and I'm talking to people calling themselves Christian, and they're just supporting people who have no Christian no interest in Christian values. And when you try to point it out, these people make you out to be the enemy. And then when you point out their own inconsistencies, instead of them saying, dang, you know what? Let me try to let me look into this. Let me get back to you about that. And instead of them being honest and saying, you know what? I'm gonna be completely honest. I know that this does not seem it doesn't seem consistent, but this is where I stand. People are not being honest. And that stuff hurts, man. That really does hurt when I'm watching people, and some of these people have been in the church for years. They've been in ministry for years, but because they've been influenced by the world, and we're seeing this, people nowadays, we're seeing where the Bible prophecies are becoming fulfilled, where the Bible is saying that even a person's own household is going to be divided. People who you go to church with, people who you've probably been sitting next to for years in church, people that you've looked up to. There are some people that I've looked up to for years and years as pastors and ministers, and I thought that they were just sound teachers. And when this whole thing popped off with Donald Trump, they just went totally left. Totally left. Some of these people, I don't agree with abortion. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. But then as soon as Trump got in office, all of that went out the window. All of that went right out of the window. And we're seeing that separation. This is the separation, and we have to be prepared. Just because people do not agree with me, and you don't have to agree with me, but I urge you to read that Bible. And I urge you to get into that Bible. Stop listening to what a lot of these pastors are just preaching, and stop listening to what you're seeing on the media. And you need to start getting into that book, and you need to start reading it and challenging people on what they're telling you, what the Bible says, instead of you just listening to what someone else says about the Bible. Get into that word. And this is the reason why I'm able to speak on these issues the way that I do, and why I have such a passion, because I actually read that Bible. I read it, and I know what it says. So therefore, when I see this guy like Mr. Mark Harris get on and he's saying these things, I can soundly challenge him on what he's saying. Because I've read the Bible. I know what it says. And and just to put it out there, I voted for Obama twice. I voted for him in 2008, and I voted for him in 2012. So don't tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. I followed this man politically. But I thank the Lord that by the time his second term, the Lord was pulling me from out of those false teachings. And he was opening himself up to me, and he was speaking to me through his word. And I had to be like, you know what? I can't get behind Obama. I couldn't get behind Obama after I started seeing what he was actually about. Him supporting the LGBT movement, and him, supporting abortion and all of that stuff. I couldn't continue to be like, oh, that's my president. No. Anyway, man, let me get ready to get up out of here, man. Let me get ready to get up out of here. I know I said it about 3 times. But yeah, you know what, guys? Pray for this country. Pray for this country, and not just because Joe Biden, Kamala Harris are going to become the leaders of this country. I will be saying this even right now. Even if Donald Trump had got elected president, I would still be doing this live stream right now. And I'll still be saying the same thing, that we need to pray for our country. We need to pray for those who just been blinded. They've been blinded by all of this political rhetoric. And they've abandoned their faith. They're pushed their faith to the side just so that they can feel good about the candidates that they are picking politically. And you guys continue to pray for me. Continue to pray for me as well, because sometimes it's kind of tough, man. Sometimes it's kind of tough to do these things, to kind of do these live streams and to kind of do these videos. And y'all don't know some of the messages, some of the mean, nasty messages I get from people. There's been sometimes I wanted to shut my channel down because I've had people just say some of the most meanest, vilest things. But and I don't do this because I want to get likes, views, clicks, super chats, or anything like that. I do this because I was called to do this. I believe that God laid this on my heart to do it. I don't make a lot of money from this. Yeah, I monetize my videos, but yeah, I may get a little something here and there, but it's not enough for me to take care of my family and my household. I got other stuff I can be doing right now. But God has put it on my heart, and He has allowed me, and I'm so grateful. Don't get it twisted. I'm grateful that the Lord has filled me with His Spirit to be able to come out and do content like this for His glory. Completely right, Mr. Savoy. We deserve judgment. We all deserve judgment. I don't care who you are. I don't care how righteous. We all deserve God's judgment right now. If the Lord came back and He judged us, how many of us can say that we deserve to go to heaven without the blood of Christ? If God came to judge us right now and we all rejected Christ, or He just said that, hey, I'm just going to judge you based on your merit, we'll all go to hell. Every last single person on this planet will go to hell. But we have to be thankful, you guys. This is what we rejoice in. This is what no other, and I know I said I was going to wrap this up, but I'm feeling the spirit right now, But on a serious note, this is what we rejoice over. This is what Hebrew Israelism, the conscious community, even the woke church, you can't get this joy about being called by God from these other false moves. You can't get it from Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. You cannot get this joy and this feeling. And this is why a lot of people don't like us. This is why some people actually hate us, and because they can't understand, how do we have this joy? How do we walk around, and how can I see another Christian, somebody that I don't even know, and we can connect just like that? Because God has called us and He's brought us together. He promises to bring us all together. And this is what He's been doing. God's word will not return void, and it has not, and it will not. No matter what election we're going through, no matter who's in office, God is sovereign. So let's not be mad at the people who have actually went out here and voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and the people who have made sure that these people are ended up in office. Let's not be mad at them, because all of this is ordained by God. And who knows, maybe God is doing this to wake a lot of us up. Because I'm not going to lie, I've been watching a lot of this political stuff, trying to figure out what should be my next move if something happens, if Trump is out of office. How can I secure my family, my finances, and all of that stuff? And to be honest, I was partially blind. But maybe this is a wake-up call. And maybe God is saying, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Donald Trump out of the picture, because a lot of people are being distracted by Donald Trump on both sides. And maybe He's saying, I'm gonna remove him as a distraction, and I'm gonna put in Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. So therefore, he won't be too much of a distraction, and now people can start focusing back on the Word of God. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for coming in. Thank you guys for just being here. I mean, you guys could have been doing something, and I mean, it's 11:21. We still got like 27 people in the chat, who are just watching this right now. So anyway, I'm gonna let you guys get on because I got to get on too. I got to go to bed, and I got to prepare for tomorrow. And thank you guys, especially those who have donated in the super chat. I don't ask for it, but if you guys donated, that really does help me out. But I'm not dependent on it. It helps me out because I do use certain video software and stuff like that. So that money does go towards supplying that video software because I do got to pay monthly for some of those things. But I do thank you guys for coming on, showing up. You guys could have been anywhere else, but you've been here with me tonight, listening to me for like 2 hours. But this is what I want you guys to do. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notifications bell. You know what I'm saying? Because let me see if I can pull it up over here. Hold on, let me see if I can go to my channel, and I can kind of show you guys. Well, maybe I can't do it because it's my own channel. But anyway, hit that notifications bell, because what happens is that when you hit the notifications bell, every time I upload a video or I go live. Whoa, what was that? Sorry guys. That was my my shelf just fell in my closet, and that just happened live. Anyway, let me get ready to go take care of this. Man, that scared me, man. Not gonna lie, that scared me. All right, you guys, hit the notifications bell, like, rate, share, comment, subscribe. You guys have a blessed night. See you next week.